So what if I told you the Bible isn't just a book you read, but a sophisticated psychological tool that's actually designed to read you? Today, we're going to dive into how its stories and its very structure act like a mirror, showing us as much about ourselves as they do about the ancient text.
I know, it's a wild idea, right? This quote perfectly captures it. The text isn't passive. It's designed to make you stop, to make you think, and to uncover parts of yourself you might not even know are there. It's a pretty bold claim, so let's break down the evidence for how this actually works.
So, how in the world does a book read you? Well, think about the story of the prophet Nathan and King David. See, David had done something truly awful, but he was completely blind to his own guilt. So instead of pointing a finger, Nathan tells him a story, a parable, about a rich man who steals a poor man's beloved little lamb. David, hearing this, becomes absolutely furious at the injustice, and in that exact moment, Nathan drops the bombshell, "You are the man." The story was a mirror held up to David's own soul, and that right there, that Nathan principle, is the key to how the entire book works on it.
All right, so let's dive into our first piece of evidence. And it's a literary trick you might not expect. It's all about the power of the pause. The Bible deliberately leaves gaps in its narratives to force us to think deeper, instead of just, scrolling through information.
You ever notice this? How biblical stories are, well, kind of sparse? We almost never get to hear what a character is thinking or what their true motives are. It leaves out these huge chunks of information that we, as modern readers, just expect to be there. So is that just sloppy writing, or is there something way more clever going on?
Well, it turns out that sparse style is 100% on purpose. These gaps aren't a bug, they're a feature. They're designed to slow you down, to make you an active participant in an interactive discovery, turning the act of reading into a kind of meditation where you have to connect the dots yourself.
And what's fascinating is that this literary trick is basically mirroring a core concept in modern psychology, cognitive inhibition. That's our ability to hit the pause button on an impulse, to create a little space between a feeling and an action, and to think about the long-term consequences. The Bible's narrative gaps are like a workout for that mental muscle, training us to pause and reflect instead of jumping to the easy answer.
And the stories themselves are absolutely full of characters who either get this right or fail spectacularly. You've got Esau, who acts on pure impulse, trading his entire future for a single bowl of soup. And then you have his brother, Jacob, a master of the long game, whose story plays out over decades. The text doesn't just use pauses. Its stories are about the importance of them.
Okay, on to our second piece of evidence. This is where we see how names in the Bible are so much more than just labels. They're actually psychological scripts that pretty much define a character's entire journey.
Think about it. In the Bible, a name is never just a name. It's a symbol packed with meaning. Abraham's name literally means father of a multitude, which sets up his entire life's purpose. Jacob means deceiver, which, perfectly describes his early behavior. And Saul means the one asked for. He was the flawed king the people begged for. Your name is basically a sneak peek of your destiny.
So the crucial point here is that these names aren't just passive descriptions. They're like a psychological script handed to the character. They establish the conflicts, both internal and external, that are going to drive their entire story, shaping who they are and who they're meant to become.
And you see this so powerfully when a character goes through a major transformation and gets a new name. Take Jacob. He starts out as the deceiver. But after this life-changing, knockdown, drag-out struggle, a literal wrestling match with God, his whole identity gets rebooted. He is renamed Israel, meaning he who wrestles with God, signaling a complete psychological and spiritual change.
All right, let's get to our third piece of evidence, and honestly, this one might be the most revealing of all. The deep, relatable, and often kind of shocking flaws of the Bible's most famous heroes. Yeah, if you're looking for perfect, squeaky clean role models, you're in the wrong place. The Bible doesn't give us polished statues. It gives us something way more real and psychologically honest. Complex, broken people who are trying to do great things, and, a lot of the time, failing along the way.
I mean, let's just look at the patriarchs for a second. Some of the most important figures in the whole story. Abraham, the father of faith, lied twice, saying his wife was his sister because he was scared. His son Isaac did the exact same thing. And we've already talked about Jacob, a guy whose early life was defined by lies and deception. These were not simple, perfect heroes. They were deeply flawed.
And that's the whole point. Their greatness wasn't in their own perfection, but in the God they were trying to follow. They weren't the heroes we'd write into a story today. No, they were
They were just like us, trying to get it right but often falling short. Their struggles are a mirror for our own.
Okay, so now let's pull back, let's zoom way out, and look at our fourth piece of evidence. The entire arc of the biblical story, which basically functions as one giant simulation designed to teach us long-term thinking.
The meta-narrative, the big picture story of the Bible, can really be boiled down to a simple three-act journey. It starts in a garden, a place of order and connection. Then, after everything goes wrong, humanity is tossed out into the wilderness, a place of testing and getting ready. And the rest of the story is always pointing forward, toward a future, restored garden, a promised land. See, that journey through the wilderness isn't just a detour, it's the whole point. This harsh, difficult place forces people to learn patience and trust, instead of just going for instant gratification. It's a training ground, a long-term cognitive simulation designed to prepare us for that future order. But here's the brutally realistic part of the simulation. The story is pretty pessimistic about human nature. We fail in the perfect conditions of the garden because we don't trust. And then, even out in the wilderness where we are totally dependent, guess what? We fail again. The story gives us a very realistic picture of the human struggle with inconsistency, no matter what the situation is.
So, when we put all these pieces together, the intentional gaps that force us to pause, the symbolic names that write a life's destiny, the flawed heroes who mirror our own weaknesses, and this grand story simulating a test of patience, what does it all point to?
It all points to this one powerful conclusion. The Bible isn't just a history book or a rule book, it's a book of the soul. Its purpose is deeply therapeutic. It's written to the soul, and it's written about the soul, with the ultimate goal of providing care and cure. It's an incredibly sophisticated tool designed to engage with the very deepest parts of what makes us human.
So the next time you open the Bible, just remember, you're not only reading a book, you're looking into a mirror that has been reflecting and shaping the human soul for thousands of years. If this made you see the Bible as a sophisticated tool for decoding human nature rather than just an old book, hit subscribe. On this channel, we don't just read stories, we decode the human.